I take the floor on behalf of the NGC under SO 63 to make our own contribution to this budget debate. At the beginning of this debate, Honorable Timbo asked a rhetorical question, and I quote, "Are we a rich or poor nation?" And I think his question puts our debate in context, because ultimately this budget is the government's economic blueprint. And that economic blueprint should try to create jobs, wealth in the economy, and also reduce poverty in the process. But he asked the question, are we a rich or poor nation? Well, if you look at the budget document itself, paragraph 4, page 2, they give you some indicators about where we stand globally. And I quote, the recently introduced World Bank Human Capital Index ranks Sierra Leone 151 out of 157, while the 2018 UNDP Human Development Index rated Sierra Leone 184 out of 189. Paragraph 134, page 30, I quote, 1 out of every 3 girls aged 15 to 19 years are either mothers or they're pregnant. So you look at our economy after 3 poverty reduction strategy papers, 1 done by the SLPP government, previous, 2 done by the APC government, 1 called Agenda for Change, another one called Agenda for Prosperity. Then you look at these most recent indicators put here, it means we didn't move in 20 years or 25 years. We run fast, but we end up amongst always the poorest 5 nations in the world. So for 30 years, we didn't move. We do a lot of stuff. We run, but we end up at the same place. It's like we say in development, it's as if you're on a poverty treadmill. You're running, but you're in the same position. So that's the answer to your question. And it puts in context why we take this debate serious. When I listen to this side, of course, you like every line in the budget. You listen to this side, they want to erase every line in the budget. It's good for you that you have C4C and NGC in the middle here. We don't have a history. Our comments have to be taken in good faith. We want to strengthen this document. We do want this government to succeed, and therefore we have no interest in diminishing this budget, but rather to add a few elements that will ensure, as Honorable Rebecca said, make it more pro-poor, make it more private sector friendly, and also institute more fiscal discipline. So with that, let me transition into some elements. And I start with fiscal discipline. The government has said it is fiscal consolidation for human capital development. We worry about fiscal indiscipline. We commend the government that so far they've done a lot in revenue mobilization. In fact, they've been able to finance operations in spite of the fact, if you look at page 3 and 4, donor money has not come. Somehow they've met obligations. It's not the first time, but they've done well. However, successive governments have always overspent. You look at every IMF recommendation for 10, 15 years, they always warn our governments, don't overspend, watch your wage bill. But I think this budget also is spending too much. This is my honest opinion. If you put it in context, 2016, the previous government declared austerity measures. Yeah, they declared austerity measures. But if you look into this document, they give you evidence that in fact, in spite of austerity measures, they overspent in 2017. If it is true, this government says the economy collapsed, I don't think they should be spending too much now. They should consolidate more. But the wage bill, the expenditure, look at everything is going up. You look within this document, Annex 1, and I give credit to the young Turks, Honorable Timbo. He forced me to go back and look at Annex 1 and Annex 6. Hiring more, I worry. Because the budget already says that government intends to spend more. If the economy is as bad as you say, if it is true the previous government also declared austerity, are we not preparing ourselves for another collapse? If it is a business, first you consolidate. You look at the institutions before you hire more. So we worry. that if we go on a massive hiring spree, if in fact we do not look at these many commissions, many agencies that we have, and we don't restructure them, we're going to do some audit of skills requirements. The major objection we have is the hiring of 1,000 more civil servants. We as NGC, we think it is too soon. Examine, do an evaluation of the MDAs, of the commissions, the agencies, many of them that exist. And you look at the emoluments of some of these commissions and agencies. That's why you see MPs get angry about welfare. When you look at all those salaries, emoluments, you ask yourself, should we be hiring more civil servants or should we be hiring more agriculture extension workers to rebuild this economy? So the first comment is that we worry that there is not enough fiscal discipline. We worry about overspending. We caution the government. We urge the government, don't spend yet. Consolidate, because you still have to pay more for free education and also for the health sector. So I move on. We commend the government for trying to achieve the international benchmarks. 20% of the budget on education, or 21%, 10% on health. I know colleagues on this side are challenging the numbers. So let us look at it this way. The government, correct or false, but the government is making efforts for us to achieve those international benchmarks. To me, it makes sense. This is why I caution them, don't spend too much elsewhere. If we take the argument of the APC, that it is 14 or it's 15, you are not there yet. Okay, let's accept the argument, but we will get there maybe by end of next year. So consolidate in other areas to meet those targets. The health sector, I want to commend our colleague Daniel Sise this morning. I really like the exchange between him and the minister. But he was pressing for more specifics. There is a lot to do. I commend Honorable Kanja on his comments about health. Captain, in fact I should say Honorable Captain Kanja, for his comments on 34. We do need a good health facility, but the comments about Kerry Town is true. Last week we hosted the UN community here in Parliament, and they told us, the head of the HIV/AIDS program, there was a time last year we returned money because we could not implement. They also highlighted that in Kerry Town, we've built a blood bank and a facility to store blood, but in fact, it is not operational, and it's almost like a white elephant. They urged us in the committee that some of us should visit, that in fact more needs to be done for Kerry Town. Why? Kerry Town is our first resistance to any major medical epidemic, and Ebola is a stubborn disease. We cannot abandon Kerry Town, so it was good my brother raised it, and the clarification.
I'm at a loss. You said we lost money?
Yes.
No, you said we returned money.
We returned money. I think he said about...
I thought we lost money
rather
than
we returned. We returned. We were surprised, and he repeated it. Because of the inability to implement. And I think it was the same point, so Honorable Alfawari.
We lost money for want of performance.
Want of performance. So we had to return it. And this year, according to him, about 108 million in addition has been provided now. So he was urging Parliament, in terms of our oversight responsibility, but also as facilitators within communities and constituencies, to work with government to make sure delivery is done, particularly in the health sector. I move on to private sector development. I respect what the government is trying to do, investing heavily in social sectors. But I tell you, we need to grow this economy. Mining has almost collapsed. Our best bet is agriculture, fisheries, and tourism. We believe the 229 billion earmarked for agriculture is really a drop. It's about $30 to $35 million. That will not transform agriculture. We need to grow this economy. In fact, when you invest more in agriculture, you are addressing poverty at source. 90% of us here are from the rural areas. So I would advocate, maybe not now because you're trying to do social sector, but I do hope that in the next budget we'll look at 10% at least for agriculture and fisheries. What we have now really is not meaningful. And my brother on the other side raised it the other day. And also Honorable Nene, I think it's Nene Levy, was talking about fisheries. But I also have a concern I see that in the budget you are going to build cold storage facilities only for Bont, Bo, and I think Moyamba. We are the fourth largest or third largest fish location in the country. Mambolo, Yeliboya, and these places. We need the cold rooms. Mapotolo. We need the cold rooms as well. But my strong advocacy is for more investments in the productive sectors, but support to the private sector. I agree with Honorable Timbo. We are overtaxing the private sector. If you look again in the budget and also some of the financial documents, we are now trying to raise more fees on the private sector. Let us be careful we don't kill the goose that lays the golden egg. Interest rates are already high. Inflation is too high. With all these fees listed, I believe we will kill the goose that lays the golden egg. The private sector is suffering. If you add to that all the headaches they have for clearing their goods at the ports, more reforms need to be done to support the private sector. Also procurement. We know from the SME operators, government is always late to pay them. Some people in this house are contractors too. When an SME borrows from the bank and you are late to pay them, you make them go bankrupt. Let me turn finally to pro-poor. Honorable Rebecca was right, and this is where I want to say every single government in the last few decades underfunds social welfare and gender. If you take 2017, and one of the documents that was not given by the Ministry of Finance but done by our own parliamentary budget group, a very good analysis of various budgets that have come to Parliament since 2014. If you take 2017, 19.1 billion was earmarked for social welfare. According to them, only 6 billion was released, less than $1 million. But this is the ministry that is supposed to deal with teenage pregnancy, the handicap, 6.2. So look at the gap, what was budgeted and what was given. Social welfare is underfunded, and they have major problems, including gender issues. So when Honorable Rebecca was advocating for pro-poor, I say invest more in agriculture to grow this economy so we can pay for education, invest more in fisheries, but also take care of the vulnerable. EPA, Mr. Speaker, you've talked a lot about the deforestation. We learned from the UN last week when they came to brief us, we're still the third most vulnerable country to climate change. Yet, we're plundering the forest still. We're killing the coastal areas. It is as if we're really destroying our resource base just for quick short-term gains. EPA is also heavily underfunded. Let me wrap up. To grow this economy now, we need investments both from our domestic private sector and also foreign. When they hear of tensions in the country, foreign investments will not come in. When the private sector internally feel there's tension, they keep their money outside. So it is in our interests. Economy cannot move without stability, peace, and togetherness. The government needs to do a whole lot more to reach. Some people feel left out in this economy. The downtrodden feel left out because, again, inflation is high, poverty is deepening. Government has to reach out to the other side. We need an inclusive society. We need a peaceful society if this economy is to take off. You cannot have development without peace and stability. Peace and stability will not be sustained if we don't have development. None will happen if people do not have protection of their human rights and the rule of law. So I want to conclude there to say, look, we will not diminish this. We'll circulate. This is very detailed. The young Turks in the House. Mr. Speaker, I have to congratulate my colleagues. Listening here for the past few days, I myself have to go each time and say, oh, I had not read this yet. I think the debate has been great. I just pray that we don't treat it like war. We don't treat it like war. It should be a spirit of how we move the economy forward. I want to thank you. We'll circulate. We have a good about 13 pages here. But since we're limited in time, 15 minutes, we wanted to summarize. We commend you guys for what you're doing in fiscal consolidation. But I tell you, the kleptocracy is so deep, you have a whole lot more to do. Thank you very much.